私が長年、この世と、そして目には見えぬ世界を眺めてきて、確信したことがございます。それは、この宇宙、この神の世界というのは、驚くほど親切である、ということでございます。あなた方を不幸にしようとか、苦しめようとか、そのような意地の悪いことはみじんも考えておりません。むしろ、どうにかして幸せになってほしい。どうにかして、そのお一人お一人に与えられた天命を全うしてほしい。そのために、四六時中、あの手この手で、あなた方に声をかけ続けているのです。それが、私の申しますところの、宇宙が導く信号なのですよ。しかし、ほとんどの方が、その声に耳を傾けません。なぜか、ご自分の頭の中が、ごちゃごちゃとうるさすぎるからなのです。過去への後悔、未来への不安、他人への嫉妬、そして何よりも、自分は正しいという、取るに足らない傲慢さ、そういった心の雑音で、耳が詰まっておられるから、宇宙が奏でる美しい導きの音楽が、全く聞こえなくなっておられるのです。あなたも、道を歩いていて、ふと、懐かしい匂いがして、遠い昔の大切な約束を思い出されたことはございませんか。あるいは、大事な契約に向かう朝に限って、いつもは履かない靴を履きたくなり、そのおかげで、道で転んで怪我をし、契約に行けなくなった。そして後日、その契約先がとんでもない詐欺師だったと知る。そのようなご経験はございませんか。それです。それこそが信号なのです。宇宙は、決して難しい数式や、小難しい理屈では語りかけて吐きません。あなた方の、ごくごく平凡な日常の中に、まるで当たり前のような顔をして、そのヒントを、その導きを、そっと置いておられるのです。私に言わせれば、この世に偶然などというものは、ただのひとかけらも存在しません。すべては必然でございます。あなたが今、私のこの話を聞いておられるのも、偶然ではないのです。聞くべくして聞いておられる。あなたの魂が、どこかで、このままではいけない。何かを変えなければならない。と叫んでおられるから、私の言葉に引き寄せられたのです。そのことに、まずお気づきにならねばなりません。世の中には、こういう方が実に多いのです。何かよからぬことが起こると、すぐに、運が悪かった。と嘆かれる。誰かのせいでこうなった。と他人を呪われる。違います。違います。全く違うのです。あなたに起こる出来事というのは、すべて、あなたの魂を磨くために、宇宙が用意した砥石なのです。良いことも、悪いことも、すべてがあなたへのメッセージです。例えば、あなたが、どなたかに対して、心の底で軽蔑の念を抱いていたといたします。口ではうまいことを言いながら、腹の内では、あの人は愚かだ、と見下していたとする。するとどうなるか、必ず、あなたご自身が、誰かから、同じように、あるいはそれ以上に愚かに扱われ、見下されるという出来事が起こります。これが宇宙の法則です。寸分違わぬ、実に見事な法則なのですよ。その時、多くの愚かな方は、私を馬鹿にしたあの人が悪い、と怒り狂われる。しかし、賢明な方は、は、と気づかれます。ああ、これは信号だ、と、私が、かつて誰かにしたことが、鏡のように跳ね返ってきただけなのだ、と気づかれる。そして、深く反省し、二度と人を心で見下すまい、と誓われる。そうやって、ご自分の心を改めた瞬間、その方を取り巻く世界は、がらりと変わります。今まで自分を馬鹿にしていた人が、なぜか急に親切になったり、あるいは、その方が自然と自分の元から去っていかれたりする。これが、信号に気づき、宇宙の流れを修正した証拠なのですよ。お分かりになりますでしょうか。あなた方の人生は、あなた方が思うほど、複雑怪奇なものではございません。実にシンプルです。ご自分が宇宙に投げかけたものが、ただ返ってきているだけ。良いものを投げかければ、良いものが返ってくる。悪い念を投げかければ、悪い現実が返ってくる。宇宙は、その返答を、様々な出来事という信号で、あなた方に、これでもか、これでもかと送り続けておられるのです。では、 その信号には具体的にどのようなものがあるか、私がいくつか特に重要なものをお教えしましょう。まず第一に、あなたご自身の身体です。身体というのは魂の入れ物であり、宇宙と直結した最も敏感なアンテナなのです。その身体が発する声をあなた方はあまりにも無視しすぎておられます。例えば、どうも最近胃の調子が悪い。医者に行っても特に悪いところはないと言われる。しかしどうにもすっきりしない。そういう時、あなたは何を考えておられるか、よく内省してみることです。ひょっとしたら何かどうしても許せない方がおられませんか？あるいは本当はやりたくない仕事を生活のためにと無理やりご自分に言い聞かせて飲み込んでおられませんか？そのあなたが飲み込んだ怒りや不満や諦めが意という形であなたに信号を送っているのですよ。もう我慢ならないと、そのやり方は間違っていると、私が見てきた中で大きな病気をされる方というのは決まってこの身体からの小さな信号を長年にわたって無視し続けた方です。肩が凝る、腰が痛い、眠りが浅い、そんなものは年のせいだ、疲れのせいだとごまかし続けられる。違うのです。それはあなたの生き方が魂の望む道から少しずつずれてきていますよという宇宙からの愛に満ちた警告なのです。その小さな警告を無視し続けるから宇宙は荒療治に出るしかなくなる。あなたが嫌でも立ち止まり、ご自分の人生を見つめ直さざるを得ないように大きな病気という強烈な信号を送ってくるのです。病気になって初めて当たり前だと思っていた健康のありがたさに気づかれる。失って初めて家族の愛に気づかれる。それでは少々遅いのですね。ですから今日からご自分の身体の声にもっと耳を澄ませてください。なぜかあの場所に行こうとすると頭が痛くなる。なぜかあの方と会うとどっと疲れる。その理屈では説明できない身体の感覚こそがあなたを守ろうとする宇宙の信号なのです。それを気のせいだと片付けてはいけません。身体が嫌がることはあなたの魂も嫌がっておられる。そこから勇気を持ってすっと離れてみる。それだけで人生は驚くほど軽くなるものです。次に大事な信号はあなた方の心です。特に理屈を超えたふと湧き上がる感情、私たちはそれを虫の知らせとか嫌な予感と呼んできました。これもまた実に強力な宇宙からの導きです。世の中の方々は頭でっかちになりすぎました。データがどうだ、論理的に正しいかとそればかりを気にされます。もちろん知性も大事です。しかし本当に人生の重大な岐路においてあなたを正しい道に導くのはその小さな頭で考えた理屈ではありません。魂の奥底から響いてくる直感という名の神の声です。理由はわからない。どう考えてもこちらの方が得だ、儲かる。周りも賛成している。しかしなぜか胸がざわざわする。一歩が踏み出せない。こういう時あなたならどうなさいますか？ほとんどの方はそのざわざわをご自分の弱さだと無理やり押さえつけて理屈で正しい方へ進んでしまわれます。そして必ず失敗されます。後になってあの時なぜか嫌な予感がしたのですと嘆かれる。当たり前です。宇宙があなたの魂を通してそちらは違いますよ、そちらは崖っぷちですよと必死でブレーキをかけてくれていたのに、あなたがそれを振り切って進まれたのですから。逆にこういうこともございます。周りは全員反対する。何の保証もない。どう考えても茨の道だ。しかしなぜか胸がワクワクして心が躍る。これをやらなければ私は死んでも死にきれないという熱い何かがこみ上げてくる。それこそが生きなさいという宇宙の信号です。その声に従ったとき、人間は ご自分でも信じられないような力を発揮されます。不思議な助けが次々と現れ、不可能だと思われたことがいとも簡単に成し遂げられてしまう。これが宇宙の流れに乗るということなのですね。あなた方、ご自分の心をもっと信じて差し上げてください。あなた方の心はこの大宇宙と寸分違わずつながっておられます。その心が本当に喜ぶ道を選ぶこと、それが宇宙の信号に素直に従うということなのです。恐れることはございません。あなたの心が本当に喜んで選んだ道ならば、たとえ一時的に苦労があったとしても、それは必ずあなたを光り輝く場所へと導いてくださいます。私がお約束いたします。そしてもう一つ非常にわかりやすい信号がございます。それは人間関係ですよ。あなたの周りに今どういう方が集まっておられるか、それが今のあなたの心の状態を宇宙が映し出して見せてくれている何よりの証拠です。もしあなたの周りが愚痴や不平不満、他人の悪口ばかり言う方であふれておられるなら、それはあなたご自身がそういう薄暗い波動を宇宙に発しておられるという信号です。あなたが口では良いことを言いながら心の底で世の中を呪い、他人を羨んでおられるから、そういう方ばかりが引き寄せられてくるのです。類は友を呼ぶというのは宇宙の絶対法則ですから、その時周りの方を責めてはいけません。ああ、私の心が今これほどまでに曇っているのかと気づかせてもらったことに感謝しなくてはなりません。そしてご自分の心を変えることです。他人の悪口を言うのを今日この瞬間から一切やめる。愚痴を言う代わりにどんな小さなことでもありがたいと感謝の言葉を口に出してみる。最初は難しいかもしれません。しかし言霊というものがございます。言葉には現実を作り出すとてつもない力があるのです。あなたが感謝の言葉を口にし続けると、あなたの心もだんだんと感謝の心に変わってきます。あなたの波動が変わるのです。するとどうなるか不思議なことが起こりますよ。今まであれほどまとわりついてきた愚痴仲間たちがなぜか居心地が悪そうにして一人また一人とあなたの元から去っていかれます。そしてその空いた席にまるで測ったかのように明るく前向きで感謝にあふれた方がすっと座られる。これがあなたの波動が変わったことを宇宙が教えてくれる信号です。出会う方、去る方、すべてはあなたへのメッセージです。長年親友だと思っていた方と急に話が合わなくなり疎遠になることもあるでしょう。それは悲しいことではございません。お互いの魂のステージが変わったというだけの話です。宇宙があなたを次の新しいステージへ導くためにその別れを用意されたのです。古い縁に執着してはいけません。去る者は追わず、来る者は拒まず、すべては大いなる宇宙の采配だとどっしりと構えていればよろしいのです。あなたがご自分の魂を磨き、高い波動を放ちさえすれば、宇宙は必ずあなたにふさわしい最高の人間関係を用意してくださるものです。さらに申しますなら、日常で起こる小さな障害、これもまた見逃してはならない信号ですよ。例えば大事な商談に行こうとして家を出た瞬間にカラスに糞を落とされたとします。最悪だとあなたは思われますか？私でしたらこう思います。ほう、これは面白い信号が来たなと。これは宇宙が私に何を伝えようとしているのかと考えます。そのまま行けという激励か、あるいは今日は行くなという警告か。その答えはあなたの心が知っておられます。カラスの糞を落とされてなぜか心がスッとして笑えてきたなら、それは厄落としです。よし、これで悪いものは全部落ちたと胸を張っていかれればよい。逆に糞を落とされて言いようのない不安や 嫌な感じが心を占めたなら、それは、行くな、という信号です。一度立ち止まり、本当にその商談を進めてよいのか、もう一度、深く考える必要がございます。無理やり進めれば、必ず、もっと大きな厄災に見舞われることになります。電車が遅れる。持っていこうとした大事な書類を、家に忘れる。些細なことです。しかし、物事がスムーズに進まない。というのは、今のあなたの進もうとしておられる道が、宇宙の流れと、どこか逆行していますよ。というサインなのです。そういう時は、焦ってはいけません。イライラしてもいけません。ああ、そうか。宇宙が、私に、一呼吸置きなさい。と言ってくれているのだな、と受け止めるのです。そして、その待たされた時間で、もう一度、自分の計画に穴はないか、本当にこれは、自分も相手も幸せになる道か、と、静かに心を見つめ直す。その、ほんの数分の内省が、あなたを、取り返しのつかない失敗から救うことが、どれほど多いことか。逆に、物事が、トントン拍子に、まるで誰かが見えない力で後押ししてくれているかのように進むとき、これこそが、その道で間違いありませんよ。そのまま進みなさい。という、宇宙からの最もわかりやすい、ゴーサインです。その流れには、絶対に逆らってはいけません。ご自分の小さな頭で、こんなにうまくいっていいのだろうか、と疑ったり、謙遜のつもりで、わざとブレーキをかけたりしてはいけません。それは、宇宙の親切を足毛にするようなものです。ありがたい、ありがたい、と、感謝の心で、その流れに、ただ乗ればよいのです。そうすれば、あなたが想像もしておられなかったような、素晴らしい頂へと、宇宙が連れて行ってくださいます。結局のところ、皆様、宇宙が送ってくる信号というのは、突き詰めれば、たった二つのことを、私たちに伝えようとしておられるのです。一つは、あなたの心が感謝を忘れておられませんか、ということ。もう一つは、あなたの心が傲慢になっておられませんか、ということ。この二つです。私が見てきた中で、人生がうまくいかなくなる方というのは、例外なく、このどちらか、あるいは両方に陥っておられます。当たり前のことを、当たり前だと思った瞬間から、人間の転落は始まります。息ができること、歩けること、今日も食事ができること、私の話が聞けること、その一つ一つがどれほど奇跡的でありがたいことか。その感謝を忘れ、不平不満ばかりを口にする方の周りからは、幸運の神様は、さあ、とうとう立てて逃げていかれます。そして宇宙は、その方が当たり前だと思っていたものを、一つ、また一つと取り上げていかれる。病気になったり、仕事を失ったり、人を失ったりして、これでも気づきませんか、これでも感謝できませんか、と、それは宇宙の罰ではございません。愛なのです。あなたの目を覚まさせるための荒療治なのです。そしてもう一つの傲慢、これが一番恐ろしいものです。少しばかり物事がうまくいったり、人から褒められたりすると、すぐに、自分は偉い、自分は特別だ、自分は何もかもわかっている、と勘違いされる。こうなった方は、もう、宇宙からの信号が一切聞こえなくなります。身体が悲鳴を上げても、無視する。心のざわざわも、気のせいだ、と一蹴する。周りの方が、忠告してくださっても、うるさい、と耳を貸さない。その方の周りには、おべっかを使う人間しかいなくなります。そうなれば、もう、終わりですね。宇宙は、そういう傲慢な方を、一番嫌います。なぜなら、宇宙の法則そのものが、謙虚さと感謝で成り立っているからです。傲慢の頂点に達した方を、宇宙は、必ず、その鼻っ柱をへし折るために、崖から突き落とされます。あなたが、今まで築き上げてきたと信じておられたものが、一瞬にして、ガラガラと音を立てて崩れ去る。その時、あなたは、初めて気づかれる。ああ、私は、何一つ、 自分の力でやってきたことなどなかったのだ。と、私は、大いなる宇宙の力によって、ただ、生かされていただけだったのだ。と、その、どん底の場所で、心の底から、私は間違っておりました。と、涙を流して懺悔し、感謝できたとき、初めて、宇宙は、あなたに、もう一度、手を差し伸べてくださるのです。そこからが、あなたの、本当の人生の始まりなのです。さあ、皆様、私の申したいことが、魂に届きましたでしょうか。もう一度申します。この世に、偶然など、何一つございません。あなたの身に起こる、すべての出来事は、あなたを、幸福に、豊かに、そして、あなた本来の輝く姿に導くための、宇宙からの、愛に満ちた信号なのです。その信号に、気づかれるか、気づかれないか、ただ、それだけが、あなたの運命を分けるのです。もう、ご自分の小さな頭で、ああでもない、こうでもないと悩むのは、今日限りで、おやめになることです。その代わりに、心を静かにしてみる。そして、耳を澄ませる。ご自分の身体が、今、何と言っておられるか。ご自分の心が、今、何を求めておられるか。ご自分の周りに、今、どんな方が集まってきておられるか。目の前で起こる、小さな出来事が、何を伝えようとしておられるか。すべてが、あなたへのメッセージです。すべてが、あなたを助けようとする、宇宙の導きです。その声に、ただ、素直に従えばよいのです。身体が嫌だと言ったら、やめてみる。心がワクワクしたら、理屈抜きで、飛び込んでみる。嫌な方とは、そっと距離を置く。良い出会いは、心から大切にする。うまくいかないときは、立ち止まって、感謝の心を思い出す。うまくいったときは、傲慢にならず、宇宙のおかげです。と謙虚になる。この、実にシンプルな実践を、今日、この瞬間から、ただひたすらに、続けていくのです。そうすれば、あなた方の人生は、劇的に変わります。今まで、何をしても、うまくいかなかった方が、まるで、見えない力に押されるように、すいすいと、幸運の波に乗っていかれる。病気がちだった方が、嘘のように健康を取り戻し、生き生きと輝き出される。憎しみ合っていた人間関係が、雪が溶けるように、和解と感謝の関係に変わっていく。お金に困っていた方に、思いもよらないところから、豊かさが流れ込んでくる。これは、奇跡でも、魔法でもございません。あなたが、宇宙の流れと、ぴったりと調和した結果、起こるべくして起こる、当たり前の法則なのです。良いですか、皆様。あなた方は、決して、お一人ではございません。この大宇宙が、すべての神々が、あなた方のことを、片時も忘れず、見守り、導いてくださっておるのです。その、大いなる愛の信号を、信じるのです。ご自分の身体を信じてください。ご自分の心を信じてください。そして、宇宙の采配を、絶対的に、信頼するのです。そう覚悟を決められた、あなたの人生は、今日から、弥勒のよう、すなわち、光り輝く、喜びと感謝に満ち溢れた世界へと、間違いなく、変わっていきます。私が、それを、ここに断言いたします。私の知恵が、皆様の魂に火を灯す一助となったと感じられたならば、この偉人の知恵を、より多くの、道に迷う仲間たちに届けるために、この学びの場に参加していただきたいのです。それが、また一つ、あなたが宇宙に放つ、良き行いとなるのですから。
Do your desires feel good to you when you think about them? That's a good thing, isn't it? That means you are not contradicting them with beliefs that are different. When you want it, but that desire is not as pleasant as when you want it and I want this thing I cannot have. Doesn't feel so good, does it? Have you ever heard yourself say, I felt better before I knew I wanted that, since I don't believe I can have it? We want you to know that there is nothing that is off limits to you. And that if in fact your life experience has brought you to a place that you have identified a desire for something, it's well along the way. By the time you are verbalizing that you want it, a lot of momentum has already happened. A lot of important momentum that you, beautiful humans, in your human form, don't count usually. Because you don't account for the momentum of contrast that caused you to put it together vibrationally bit by bit. You often don't account for all of the momentum that happened even before you were fully realizing that you wanted it. So by the time you are verbalizing, I really want this, when that idea comes to you, that fresh idea that felt so good for a minute, before you killed it with your doubt, that exhilarating feeling of recognizing that you have a desire for something, the majority of the momentum and the attraction power has already taken place. And now the bringing it into your realization where you can see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it, that's really the easy part. But so often you don't realize that because, dear hearts, you hold yourself in a holding pattern unnecessarily. You hold it away from you without meaning to, for one very simple reason. We're going to give it to you right here in the beginning. You want to know why? You don't often, always, often. You know why you sometimes, often, don't allow your desires to come to smooth and fast and easy fruition? It's because you're looking into the physical world where you want it to show up, and if it isn't there, then your awareness that it isn't there is what slows it down and keeps it from coming. Isn't that interesting? Because you get what you think about. So you want to ask yourself, am I thinking more about it being here, or am I noticing more that it isn't here yet? And you can sort of tell by the conversation that you hear coming out of yourself. Things like, I'll be glad when it gets here, or I'll be happy when such and such happens, then I will really be happy. And so if it's then, not now, think about it, then feel what's going on in your vibration. If it's later, not now. So sometimes you wonder when we talk like this, from our place of already knowing that it is, but you don't know that it is yet because you can't see it. So from your point of view, often it isn't. Well, which is it? Is it or isn't it? Because it can't be both. And if you think that it isn't yet, then your vibration is different than if you accept that it is. You see what we're getting at? Sometimes we ask you to feel happy about it in its evolving. And you want to say, okay, but I'll be happier when it gets here. And we say, that's a little tricky, isn't it? Because are you more absence of it aware or presence of it aware? And this is really what we want to talk about, because it exists and it does have a vibrational presence, even though you have not yet allowed yourself to see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it. Still, it exists. And so if you can feel it in its becoming rather than in its absence, it's sort of like, do you ever get in a car and take a trip somewhere? And for most of those many, many miles, you're not there yet. You're not there yet. But you're not driving along thinking about the absence of your destination, usually. You're usually in the moment aware of where you are, yes? And so we would like to see you realizing the existence of your desires before they have manifested. And if you can find a way to do that, then there are going to be two wonderful, predominant aspects to your life forevermore as you're here in this physical body. First is, many more of the things that you are wanting are going to be showing up faster. And next, you're going to be happy along the way, whether they're here quite yet or not. Have you ever had the experience of really looking forward to something? Maybe it's a vacation or a getting together with someone, an experience of some kind, usually. Really looking forward to it. And then it comes and goes and then you're depressed because you were so looking forward to it. Well, that's the state of being we would like you to be chronically in. the state of being of looking forward, looking forward, looking forward. Anticipation is such a wonderful emotion, because when you are in happy anticipation, that means you are not blocking the unfolding in any way. In fact, you are encouraging it. Better said, you are allowing it with your vibrational frequency. You're allowing it through your positive expectation. One of our favorite words that Esther finds to describe things that we mean to say is the word expectation, because expectation includes both a desire and a belief. So when you have positive expectation about something, then it is happily unfolding and you're happy all along the way. If you could find a way to be more expectant of the things that you want, ooh, that's the sweet spot of life. When you in your physical body are approaching the subject that is in your current now, and you are approaching it in the same way that your inner being is approaching it, ooh, that's when you feel bliss or eagerness. That's when you feel love and appreciation. That means you are on the same vibrational wavelength. But if your inner being is looking at what you're looking at differently than you're looking at it, for example, if you're really mad at someone and your inner being never is, then the negative emotion that you feel is your indicator that there are some conflicting vibrations going on. And that, in fact, is what resistance is. And you are the only one who can introduce resistance into your experience. And when you introduce resistance into your experience, you slow down who you are and what you want. It really is as simple as that. So the short version of this explanation of you, the creator of your own experience, is get happy and stay there, and good things will come to you. We've enjoyed this interaction immensely. Go forth and ponder and practice. So when you realize that you can tell in every moment what you're doing, then you can begin to shift your vibration just a little bit. You know how when you're driving down the road, you drive? Esther loves driving. You're driving down the road, and a lot of momentum has happened before this moment. In other words, the roadways have been paved usually, and there are lanes that are defined usually, and you have an efficient machine that you are driving usually. So as you're moving down the road, if you begin to drift off into the grass, usually you do something about correcting that. And the more alert you are, the more effective, efficient you are at it. So when you drive, you usually stay in your lane, don't you? And you usually don't drive over the top of the car in front of you. You usually don't try to occupy the same space with another vehicle at the same time. You've learned some of it, but you intuitively know how to place yourself as you're moving along. The other morning, Esther awakened. We should tell you what happened before that. She went to sleep before she awakened. We should tell you what happened before she went to sleep. She watched television. Dun, dun, dun. She was watching something to do with the political stuff. And then she thought, I can't take it anymore. And she turned it off. And she went to sleep in resistance, yes? But while she slept, her vibration cleared. That's what always happens. And then when she awakened, she was still in that clear place for a minute. And then she received a sort of disturbing phone call about something not very important, but important enough. Dun, dun, dun. And then she thought, ooh, this is the beginning of a new day. I'm going to take care of this right now. In other words, like correcting your driving, not off in the grass. So she brushed her teeth and sat to meditate. Meditated for 15 minutes. Came back into that clear space and stayed there for a little while until she checked her email. Dun, dun, dun. And then she says, oh no, not this. I'm going to focus with clarity. Now what we're getting at is, this is not so different than driving down the road, is it? In other words, you do something about it, because if you're driving down the road and you're not watching what you're doing, and you end up off in the grass, and you don't do something about bringing yourself back into your lane, and now something more happens, and something more happens, and something more happens, and something more happens, you could bring yourself to a lot of trouble. Momentum sort of happens that way, doesn't it? Here's another way of looking at it. If you're driving across a big wide roadway in a very effective car, and there's not much going on around you, you could be a little lackadaisical, sloppy in your driving just a little bit, couldn't you? Ever drive with your knees? Ever change places with someone else while you're driving? Sometimes you feel comfortable, and so you don't feel like you need to be so attentive to what's happening because there isn't some momentum that's going to be to your disadvantage. But what if you're driving on a mountain road and there are sharp drop-offs? Don't you pay more attention to what you're doing? Are not some roads you drive on a little riskier than others? And some subjects you think about are a little riskier than others. Now, we're not saying avoid the subjects that might take you off in the grass. We're not saying that. We're saying when you're approaching those subjects, be clear about who you are. Because it's not what you do so much in a correcting sense that matters vibrationally. It's the preparation you have made in advance. It's how ready you are. It's how much you care about being in alignment. That really is the secret to the success of manage your own vibration. Do you acknowledge that you are the creator of your own reality? Have you come that far? And do you understand that law of attraction abounds and is responding to your output all of the time? And do you understand that what comes back to you is because of the output? In other words, what you're broadcasting and what you're receiving are the same thing. So it matters what you think, doesn't it? It matters a lot. Do you find yourself sometimes being a reactor to what's going on in your experience? It's interesting, isn't it? To be living in a world with so many others who are creating their own reality, because it is not the easiest thing to navigate in all of that vibrational current and maintain your own frequency unless you've practiced it a bit. And that's really what we're talking about in all of the hours that we are together with all of you. Many of you are here at your first seminar, but you are not new to these ideas. And it is our expectation that as we move forward together today, that the things that you will talk about, that you're wondering about, and the things that we have to say about it, and the things that others in the room will think about it as we're having the conversation, is going to move this conversation of personal creation into a whole new place of understanding for you. The most important thing that we want you to understand, and it's easier at sometimes to accept this than others, is that things are always working out for you. And the reason that we know that to be true is because we know who you are. We know who you were before you came into these bodies, and we know who this life has caused you to become. We see the vibrational version of you, the vibrational version that life has caused you to be, the vibrational version that you are now because you want to feel good, meaning to live up to. That's the part of you that we know best. But it does not mean that we are not aware and lovingly aware of where you stand in relationship to that evolved and expanded being. And if there is anything that we wish to convey to you in a way that you can really understand it, it's that you came into this body with great reason and purpose. And that purpose was for this joyful expansion. And that if in your physical body, right here and now, you're not allowing yourself to be that vibrational being that life has caused you to become, then you are less happy than you want to be. You are meant to feel exhilaration. You are meant to feel love. You are meant to feel passion. You are meant to be excited about life. You are meant to attract wonderful things and experiences and others into your life experience. Life is supposed to feel good to you. That was your plan. And if it isn't feeling good to you, just not now or maybe often, then something is amiss in your vibration. And we know for sure that it's a simple misunderstanding on your part. We know that you have diverged from the understanding of worthiness about yourself. And so that is our reason for playing with you in this way. We want to help you to feel who you really are. And we want you to stop beating up on yourself for anything that you have not yet figured out how to allow into your experience.
How do I control my contrast better?
So is the premise that you're starting from that contrast is good or bad?
Good. It's really intense for me. So is my alignment.
So if the contrast is intense, it means you are giving nearly equal airtime to wanted and unwanted, or to new and current. And we can tell you specifically, it's your attention to what is that's holding the not wanted end of the contrast in such steady place.
Okay.
You've been an objective person for a very long time, weighing the pros and the cons and the pluses and the minuses. You are an evaluator more than you are a feeler, which means you are a thinker more than you are a feeler.
Okay.
Well, thinking is good because focus is good, but just find the subtle difference between focusing feelings and focusing thoughts. Just for a little while, let the feeling be the thought that you're focused upon. Do you hear that? It's a subtle distinction, but it's really a powerful tool. I care about how I feel. So now ask the question again. How can I control contrast? So let's be more specific in that question. How can I narrow the gap between what I want and where I stand? Isn't that what you're saying? How can I control contrast? How can I pull this end of it in so it's closer? Because when the contrast is really extreme, oh, your ups and downs are really strong. And when you're not feeling good, you're really not feeling good. And when you're feeling good, you're feeling really good. That's why they give you the label of manic depressive.
Yeah.
Or bipolar, in other words.
Very manic.
That's what that all is about. By closing that gap, which means less airtime to that, less airtime to that, more to this, less airtime to unwanted, more time to wanted, so that you still have contrast. You see, contrast between really wanting something and sort of kind of believing it is way better than contrast between wanting something and doubting it. And so you close that gap by, or you control contrast by closing that gap. And you close that gap by focusing more upon what you want, and by practicing thoughts that feel good, and by not trying so hard, and by giving yourself the benefit of the doubt more, and by taking more naps when you don't feel good, and by not pushing through. Esther was visiting with some people that she cares very much about recently, and they were talking about what they say to their children. And one was saying, well, I just tell my kids when they feel like they just have no more to give to just dig deeper. I just say, push through. And their mother said, I say, oh, never mind, or just let it go, or take a nap, or. Not so much struggle will diminish the contrast. You see, do you accept that there's a vortex that's powerful in calling you?
Yes.
And do you understand that if you were just looking there would be no contrast?
Oh.
So where are you looking instead of there? Here, where I am. Well, here is hindering there. What is slows what's coming down, because you can't allow what's coming if you're focusing on what is. You get that? So all those people have been saying, give me your attention. And we would say, oh, you don't feel that good. I don't think I'm going to give my attention to you. Or if they feel good, then give them your attention. Because there are things in the now that are a vibrational match to where you're going. You can feel it when you find them. Good feeling things in your now are a match to the good feeling things where you're going. So it's just, the key again is caring about how you feel and focusing.
And I do my 17 seconds, and I do my 68 seconds, and I have a group on Facebook, and we share good stuff all day. I feel like I'm doing it all day. And I'm mostly feeling good, though. I'm mostly feeling good.
Sharing good stuff is such a pain.
No, I'm feeling really good, but then when it...
So what you're saying is, I feel like I'm doing it, I'm just not getting the results? Or the more I tune to good stuff, the worse the bad stuff feels? Is that what you said? Is that what she said?
I'm wondering about that.
Is that what she said? Is
That was the question. Like, as it gets so much better, are the downs worse?
Only if you go there. In other words, yes, your desires, this is the most significant law in the universe. Every subject is two subjects, wanted and absence of wanted. And to the degree that you want it, the absence of it is proportionate. So if you really, really want something and you're focusing upon its absence, it feels really, really bad. If you sort of want it and you focus on its absence, it feels sort of bad. So what you're really saying is, I'm really parlaying my desires into stronger and stronger momentum. And when I don't go there, it feels bad. It's the same subject of when I go 100 miles an hour and I slam into a tree, it's a bigger problem than when I go 5 miles an hour and I slam into a tree. And so that's why you want more control, because you're going faster.
Okay.
That's what this whole conversation is about. Abraham, I'm moving so fast. I've launched so many rockets. I spend so much time going there that I just can't look in opposition to who I am without feeling bad.
Yeah.
So Abraham, could you please stop the universe as it exists and change all the rules for me so that I can just sloppily focus willy-nilly, because I'm really causing myself a lot of grief with my desire. No, we can't.
Oh, okay.
You got that, didn't you?
I got that.
Something more?
Got that. Can you explain why evil does not exist?
Well, now let's be fair. If there is the presence of goodness, then there has to be the absence of goodness.
Right.
And humans want to call that evil and assign it a source, when all it is the byproduct of disallowing the goodness that is the only source. Law of attraction and momentum are the basis of this subject. So when you focus upon something unwanted, there is a momentum to that thought. And if you keep thinking about it, then the momentum is stronger. And as others do, then the momentum is stronger until there are rivers of thoughts that exist that are the spin-off of man's conscious mind. And so if the river is strong, and there are a lot of those rivers that are strong, there are just so many things that people think about that they don't want. And so when you focus there and get caught up in one of those, it feels like something is asserting itself to you while nothing does assert itself. So the reason that we like to approach anyone who's beginning to understand vibration from a exercise of meditation is because when you quiet your mind and you stop resistance, we know what will then happen is that your vibration will raise to the frequency of who you are. The reason that we are so sure about this is because we know about this momentum of well-being. Because we have broader view, we can see the preponderance of well-being in relationship to the pinching off of it. In other words, it's not just the big picture, considering all things that have been and are. It's the current picture of even what's taking place on your planet right here and now. Well-being is just dominant. Does that mean that someone can't pinch themselves off from it? Certainly not. You can. And when you do, you feel it.
So the devilish functions in the universe, this is what I grew up hearing. I was raised Buddhist, and I always heard this, like, you chant to be protected from the devilish functions in the universe are just, it's like alignment or out of alignment.
And when you chant to be protected from something unwanted, you say, come to me, this thing I do not want, and prove to me that you exist.
Right. It's this
come to me, this thing I do not want, and prove to me that you exist.
Right. And if you keep chanting, though, you'll be protected from the devilish functions in the universe.
Esther remembers in the very early days of receiving Abraham, of people warning her about things like that. And so she and Jerry had some conversations with us about it. And at first, Esther was only hearing our words. In other words, she could not know. It took a while for her to understand, to feel the vibration of all of this. Esther, from time to time, would hear someone trying to explain to others who Abraham was. And it always made Esther uncomfortable because she knew they were having to overcome all the preconceived notions that everybody was having about it. And she just wanted them to just come and have the experience of Abraham, find the feeling of Abraham, feel the well-being of Abraham, because she knew that was for her what made the difference. In other words, Esther could not feel fear of things that she had learned about as a child and the presence of Abraham at the same time. So when she tuned to the presence of Abraham, all of that went away. And she tuned herself there so significantly that now she knows that that is all that exists. The other is just trumped up reasons to explain disconnection. Take your question further if you can.
Okay. So when a person pinches themselves off so often,
and they do it by focusing on unwanted,
right? And then they take an action from that place that is evil.
And it even feels inspired to them because it's the next logical step. The momentum has increased it. Yes.
And they would say, the devil told me to do it.
And we would say, the devil is non-existent. The devil is the name that you assign to the absence of the pureness that is you.
Yeah. And so then how do you explain to someone whose mother was burned in a fire at church, like he can't believe that that's source energy, that source energy had anything to do with that? And I can't convince him.
Well,
and I don't try.
Everyone is where they are. And so let's talk about this path of least resistance. So here's someone suffering the loss of someone who really matters. And it's really even more dreadful to him because it happened at church. So here's my mother, my good mother, doing what she and I believe are good things. And then something that I, and maybe even she, believe is a bad thing happened in the middle of a good thing. So there's a sort of disconnect that goes on there. And so we say, well, first, and it's not easy for you, you got to accept that there is not badness in what you call death. That's the first flaw. First, you got to accept that there is no death. That's really the first flaw. that you're eternal and that you never cease to be. And so this is a question that people have been grappling with personally for a very long time. Why do things that we consider to be bad happen to people who we consider to be good? So we're going to tell you a story. It's going to feel light in relationship to this one, but we'll come back to this one. A woman driving in San Francisco area got stopped by a policeman and was given a ticket. And she is now in the hot seat complaining to us about it. Abraham, I'm a good person, she's saying. And I was in a good place. In fact, I was listening to one of your recordings. And a policeman pulled me over and gave me a very expensive ticket. And we said, what was the infraction? Not wearing my seatbelt. We said, how do you feel about seatbelts? I hate them. I think that they are unnecessary. I think that it is an imposition on our freedom. I think that it is nobody's business whether I wear a seatbelt or not. I think that nobody has any business telling me what to do. And so I don't wear my seatbelt. Sometimes I just pretend to wear it, but I don't believe that I should have to wear a seatbelt. And we said, so here's a policeman. Let's not call him bad or good. Let's call him doing his job, which means he's trolling for money. He's looking for infractors. And here you are driving down the freeway. Now, you say that you're in a place of pure positive energy because you're listening to a recording. But while you were listening to recording, you were emanating a signal that says, I don't wear my seatbelt, and I don't believe that anybody should tell me that I should have to. Because that's your belief and you're radiating it. It's in your vibration, no matter whatever else you're doing, it's in your vibration. So the policeman is driving away looking for exactly what you feel like. A lot of these guys are really intuitive. They know what infractors feel like. They've got their nose tuned to that defiant vibration. And so there you were, the most logical, strongest emanator of that anywhere. So something didn't go wrong, something went very right. That was law of attraction in action right there. That was you emanated a signal. And we didn't have a long enough conversation for us to really explain to her in a way that she could hear it, that you got to stop emanating that signal. So let's take the subject of path of least resistance. So if you have been held back or held down or confined or disallowed from following your own path and doing what you want, so you feel restrained, you feel restrained, you feel downtrodden, you feel abused, you feel disadvantaged. If you've got that vibration going on, and here's your source over here calling you toward the well-being that is really you, there are a lot of emotions for you to pass through on your way to the delightful feeling of alignment. As we talked about the emotional guidance scale, and we talked about appreciation and love there in the high-flying vibrations, and that feeling of defeat and that feeling of fear being the lower, more resistant vibrations. And so if you are feeling defeat, then anger or resentment or revenge is a step in the right direction, isn't it? And so your inner being is calling you toward the clarity and the fullness that is you. But you can't just jump all of a sudden there. That's too much of a vibrational gap. So the path of least resistance for you might very well be in that attitude of revenge or resentment, and that's where this woman was. But that's a far cry from being in the state of alignment. In other words, she was touting alignment while she was in the state. And so there are a lot of people who are at church who are fearing God, or there are a lot of people who are at church who are not loving their neighbors or the other people around them. In other words, it doesn't matter where you are, it's how you're feeling. That may very well have been the path of least resistance to what that woman was praying for. She might have been praying for alignment, for escape from something that she could not control. In other words, you can't even know for anybody else. But we can tell you that the death experience is not what humans standing behind are wanting to assign to it. It's time for you to get over that death thing. It's time for you to accept the continuity of the eternalness that is you. It's time for you to stop looking at things that happen and trying to evaluate your worthiness or your rightness or your goodness or anyone else's based upon what you're witnessing, because you don't know for anyone else. You don't know what their path is, and you sure don't know what their path of least resistance.